Oh gosh, guys. So you hear us laughing and talking, and that's because we're going to be real today here on the LYLAS podcast.
That's right. Welcome to LYLAS. If you know what LYLA stands for, then you've landed in the right spot. But even if you don't and you just want to chat with us today, then or listen to us chat a little bit, then you're in the right spot anyway.
Yeah,
We've had a
that's so
lot of
true.
guests on lately. Today's we're gonna take three on meditation. For whatever reason, we can't seem to get it to record. So we're gonna try a third time. We've been trying to record this for like, I don't know, a month now.
It's been a bit. There's been a lot of other factors that have probably prevented us from retouching it as soon as what we have. But considering, I think, the space and place that we're both in right now, probably talking about meditation, its usefulness, practices, purposes, mindfulness, it just seems on point. Maybe this is the day it was always supposed to happen,
Maybe,
right?
yeah, maybe it's meant to be today. I'm hanging on by a thread. I've meditated three times, so maybe it is the right day to talk about it.
Yeah, I think yesterday I spent about 6 hours just ruminating on something that I was pissed about. So,
It's really hard when you're coming off of like both of us have been on vacation, I feel like for a month. Um, and so you're grateful and you're very full of all the fun and activities that you've engaged in, but then you come home and it's like real life just smacks you upside the head again. And you talk about needing that like groundedness, at least for me. And we'll talk about how I've really made meditation a practice over the past year. I turned 41 tomorrow, and I remember on my 40th birthday meditating and committing to myself that I was going to do it every day for 1 year. And I pretty much have. I've maybe missed a handful of days, um, but yeah, just needing that to come back to remember that like stuff happens in life. When it rains, it pours. All those like silly sayings are true, and that you just have to go back and lean on your tools to get you through it so that you don't kill someone.
mhm.
Because it's like kind of where I'm at right now. I'm ready to hurt somebody.
I love it. Yeah, we're going to try not to. We're not choosing aggression, but the aggression is definitely there, right? It
Yeah, I feel a
happens.
solid rage clean coming on at some point today. Like I'm just gonna go through
Hmm.
my house with a giant trash bag and just start rage cleaning
Let's do
because that
it.
also tends to help.
Yeah. Like I said, I was pretty pissed off for at minimum, I think it's fair to say 6 hours.
Oof.
It was a minimum 6 hours that I just spent fuming. It made my drive really super fast. You know how whenever you get pissed, you just like stick on something.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I totally did that. Seemed pretty effective at the time. So here we are today.
Did
Yeah,
you work through it? I guess is the real question.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a plan. Let's put it that way. I think that
Okay.
it was kind of expressed, worked through, and now there's a plan, and there just has to be follow through. And I think that that will likely occur too, because I think like you said, at just different points, things just reach a breaking point,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever they hit, it's almost like in some cases you can see the train wreck getting ready to happen, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, all right, I'm just going to take my my hands off of this because I've tried to derail this thing several times and it ain't worked. So let's just go ahead and let it crash, and then I'm just going to sit back here and be like, oh, like those I told you so moments that you just want to
Mm.
sit there and just scream to the top of the mountainside. Um, yeah, so I think that my rage was cooled down by um, the inner child, probably the inner demon or witch inside of me sitting there laughing like, told you so, told you so, told you so. So, which I did not verbalize, but I got a lot of immense satisfaction out of holding it in. How about that?
Well, whatever works for you.
It is.
I tend to verbalize mine. I'm like, everybody get out of my face. As I was telling you before we hit record, like at the beginning of the summer, I was all like, gonna make every day magical, we're gonna have the best summer ever. And now I'm literally like, just get out of my face, go watch your iPad, leave me alone. I'm all done. I'm tapped out with magic. It's all done.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the magic again. Like I said, three times meditating so far this morning. which is really what we're here to talk about today, which we've, like
Mhm.
we said, we tried to record this once when we were together in West Virginia, once before that. And for whatever reason, it just, our volume is off. Something has been off. So take three, can't tell you what we talked about in take one or two. So this will be all new, uh,
Mhm.
or probably a lot of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, again, I think the timing is right, and so we'll just let the universe speak to us in this regard, right? That's all we
Right.
can do.
Yeah, like I said, last year for my 40th, we rented a lake house and I was sitting out on the dock and I had kind of dabbled with meditating a little bit, but I really made a commitment. I was like, I'm going to give this a year, like a 40th birthday present to myself. I'm going to give this 1 year of just consistently showing up and doing this every single day. And like I said, with the exception of maybe 5 times out of the last 365, I've really committed to it. And so, uh, yeah, I'm a proud that I followed through on that
Mhm.
commitment to myself because I think that's big when you hold um, yourself accountable, or even like when you just show up for yourself. That's big, and see how much it has helped and how it has changed my perception of a lot of things or my perspective, and just kind of gives me like a calm basis to start the day because I'm a mom, like most of the women probably listening to this, and things can go haywire very quickly from the
Mhm.
moment you wake up. And if you don't have that time to yourself to really sit and think about kind of like what your goals are for the day, who you want to show up as, what's kind of coming up for you in the beginning. When I first started meditating, I was sort of really listening to the things that were coming up over and over again for me, and that's sort of like carried through. But as we'll talk about, it's my practice has sort of changed over the last year. It's sort of, I would like to think that it's developed a little bit more, or just kind of morphed into like my own practice. But we've talked about before just how our practices are a little bit different in what we both, I would say, have a meditation practice, but very
Mhm.
different. Yours tend to be much more active, whereas mine really are like just sitting, focusing on my breath and listening to what is sort of coming up for me,
Mhm.
good or bad, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point is that, whenever we often think about meditation, first off, it wigs so many people out, right? Because they're like,
Right.
oh, this is just too woke for me, or it's just,
Too woo.
too, yeah, yeah, whatever. But, this stuff's been around for like over 2000 years. So we're really the ones showing up late to the game, right?
Right.
But so much research, if we're really going to kind of again add some legitimacy to some of this stuff, has really highlighted how beneficial it is, not just from a mood regulation kind of standpoint or reaction standpoint, but even from a physical one in terms of just lowering your blood sugar, your heart rate, your respirations, like everything about you is just able to physiologically reset, which does wonders for long-term health benefits. And so it's an all-encompassing practice that helps out every single aspect of our life, including the way in which we respond to other people. And I'm glad that we're now embracing it as something that we can and should be doing. And your point is valid too, in that for me to sit still is very uncomfortable.
Mm,
Like I can sleep well, but that's almost because I'm able to put myself like under. But for me to sit still, it's just physiologically uncomfortable. It's not even that my mind's going to a thousand different places. Most of the time, it's 100% blank. Um, but it just doesn't feel good. And I think it's because, in part, I have so many different hypermetabolic disorders that stillness just doesn't work for it. But that's where a mindfulness based practice works really well for me. And so, what that means and how it kind of differentiates a little bit from what Jen's going to talk about is that I am like, whenever I was ruminating in the car, I was 100% aware that that's exactly what I was doing. I was very mindful of that. But that also means that you are mindful of different things that happen within your environment. So if I'm looking outside right now and I can see all the different colors of green within the trees, then I'm being very reflective of that. And mindfulness is cool, it's just because it's something that we all do. I mean, every single one of us do it. Our kids do it, and they don't even need to be taught that they're doing it. It's just bringing attention to what you see right then, or taste, or smell, or feel, and then what that does for you, and how that
Mm,
can trigger a positive memory, or how that can just, again, help to pull you away from something that is distressing. That's the effective way to kind of use mindfulness, I would say.
mm. Yeah, I remember taking yoga classes, and they typically end with a shavasana where you're just
Hmm.
laying on your yoga mat. And that used to be super uncomfortable for me. I used to lay there and, it was so hard to just lay still, even for that 3, 4 minutes. And I used to think, well, how do people actually sit and meditate for like 20, 30 minutes at a time? You would hear things or watch things and see that people really like dive deep into meditation. And I was curious about just how do you get into such a practice?
Hmm.
Oh, I've mentioned 100 times on on this podcast, Melissa Wood Health, her app. That's really how I started. I Googled her first meditation, just like a free one on YouTube. It was, I think, called like beginner meditation. I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 minutes. And I did that one a couple of times. Like I said, I sort of dabbled in meditation a little bit just here and there, but nothing consistent by any means, what I would call a practice. And then once I started doing her workouts consistently and you have access to all of her meditations on her app, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to start to try this. And so, like, I really started small with just doing like 3, 4 minutes a day just to see if I could, like, sit still, close my eyes, and focus on my breath. And sort of the idea isn't really to clear your mind per se, because you want things to come up, some things that you might know deep down that you need to work on within yourself. That's when those things really start to bubble up, and it can be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I remember being like, oh, I don't really want to think about this, or I don't really want to, dive into this. But the more that it kept coming up for me, I thought, okay, this is definitely something that needs to be worked on. And so I just over time started to extend my practice. But I would say in the very beginning, I made it so ritualistic for me. So it became part of like my daily five, that morning routine of like getting up, hydrating, coffee, go upstairs, meditate. And I have like my little diffusers. I would like smell those, or I would light a candle, or I would burn some incense, or um, I just kind of like was very ritualistic about it just to kind of like get my mind right. And that sort of shifted. I don't really do so much of those ritualistic types of things. I can meditate anywhere, anytime now, because I can just sort of drop into the zone. But I sort of needed to build that habit in the beginning. And so I think that's why I really relied on such like the routine part of it. And it still is, I would say, a part of my morning routine, but it doesn't have to be like right in that order. Sometimes when I first wake up, before I even like reach for my phone or my glasses, I'll just pop my earbuds in and do a meditation. So for me, I definitely benefited from a guided meditation practice, but also really just building that habit to begin with,
Hmm.
and slowly starting to, I would go for 10 minutes, or I would try a 15-minute one. And now her app has such a wide range of creators that give different types of meditations. It's really interesting. And again, like, my curiosity is always piqued to try different types. So sometimes, you chant with them. Sometimes,
Hmm.
more like breath work that's really hard for me for some reason. But I like to challenge myself in that way. And so I have really gone all in. And I think that, I said this on social media not too long ago. If there's anything I could go back and start doing a decade ago, it would be meditating. Like, that's
Wow.
the thing I wish I would have started doing in my 20s, like as early as possible. Like, it has just completely changed my, I don't know, temperament. I don't know if that's the right,
Hmm.
still spicy. I'm still, still have no filters. My husband reminds me all the time, but my day, I just, it's so much more peaceful. Everything is more peaceful. I feel like I'm much more willing to look at everything through the lens of love and opportunity versus like frustration and negativity. And not that I was ever like super negative, but I can definitely, it's definitely changed the way that I approach people and events that happen in my life and how I react to things, I think is a biggie for me.
Well, I think it's really cool that you've mentioned that, you've already done it 3 times today. So I hope that our listeners get it. Like, it's not just like a thing you do once and then you're good all day. This is like a tool that
No.
sometimes you need to just continually pull out, especially if you feel your own personal like thermometer rising,
Mm.
especially whenever it's going to enter into a reaction. Then having that tool just to kind of again bring you back down and have that sense of grounding is just so cool.
Yeah, it's such a great tool to help you get back to like homeostasis, when you're worked up, because things happen all day. Like you feel like things are just coming at you. And it's just the week that we're having. Like you come home from vacation and like all your shit's broke. Like your AC don't work, your car's not working, like, your house is a wreck. Like you have a million loads of laundry to do. There's no food, no toilet paper, like whatever it is, it's just like boom, 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 boom.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like, okay, this in the grand scheme of life, these aren't huge things. We will deal with them, but they're frustrating things. And instead of just being pissed off and lashing out at everybody I come in contact with, I'm like, let me take a beat. Let me take 5 minutes to sit here and like do some breath work.
Hmm.
And I can show up the way that I actually want to show up, like a nice, caring, loving that doesn't want to rage on everyone, even though it's 1 million degrees in Charleston, South Carolina, and my AC hasn't worked for over a month.
I
So I
could
do
not.
want to rage. Um, but you know what? It's like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to carry forward. And it helps. I mean, it does.
Mhm.
I'm in a much better space than I was 15 minutes ago before I did it. um, when I really just wanted to grab a trash bag and throw everything in our house away. Do you get in those moods? Is that just me? Like the rage cleaning? Like when I get angry, I just want to like throw shit away. Am I the only like this?
No, no. Whenever I get frustrated with the kids, even whenever Cameron was an itty bitty, I only had to do it with him once, and then he was afraid after that point that I would actually, I'm a follow througher. So at one point, I told him I was going to pack up because his room was a mess or something. I was like, I'm going to throw all your stuff away, and you're going to come back and you're going to leave for a little bit, and it's all going to be gone. Well, it was. I packed it all in trash bags, and he immediately was like, "Oh my god!" And then he had to earn it all back. I do that now, has no effect or very little effect on Miss Thing. You know how it is with these girls. They'll just look at you and be like, hmm,
Yeah,
okay,
don't care. I
fine.
mean,
Yeah. So in those moments, I think that that's whenever that's a rage reaction or clean. But I don't know that for me, I think whenever I get to that point, like how I was even yesterday, I knew yesterday that I would be in the car for 3 hours and no one would have any contact with me. And
mhm.
that's honestly what I needed. I was driving through areas that I knew I would have little to no cell phone service. I couldn't do anything with it. It just was what it was. But I needed like that 3 hour time frame. And then I was on some
Mhm.
flights before that. So even then I can't like, fully just kind of, I needed that time to just be angry. And I think that that is a part of life too. I think that so
Yeah.
much we feel like that we should not allow ourselves to have those feelings or to be in that space with things, but even kind of like how I was saying with meditation or mindfulness, sometimes it's not about rejecting that feeling. It's not about pushing it away or judging it as being good or bad. It just is what it is in that moment. So I needed to have whatever solid 6 to 8 hours it was of me just being phenomenally pissed off.
Or just letting yourself feel the way you felt.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay to like feel that. And it's okay to be like, that made me super angry. And I
Hmm.
needed time to feel that and process it and come up with a plan. Like you said, now you have a plan to
Hmm.
follow through. And like that's so important that you just let yourself feel the feelings. Like I'm pissed off that everything is broken in this house.
Yes.
And it drives me crazy. But I also have to remember, like, super grateful, just came off of some great vacations, some great quality time with our
Mhm.
family. And like at the end of the day, shit will get fixed. Shit will
Yeah.
get, everything will work out. It's just frustrating in the moment. We were
Hmm.
coming back from Colorado. Our flight got delayed.
Mm.
like 6 hours. And so we were in the
Oh.
airport for about 8 hours because we got there about 2 hours early, of course. And literally, as we're walking to our gate, so we get through, we have like TSA pre check, we get through, boom, boom, boom. It was all carry on luggage. It's so easy. We get through, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to be able to just like relax, maybe have a beverage before our five
Mm.
o'clock flight. And we're walking up to the gate. We get like the alert on your phone, like, your flight's been delayed 2 hours. And I was like, son of a biscuit. Like, we could have stayed. We were visiting a friend right before that. We could have hung out at their house for an extra 2 hours, whatever. And then like it just continues, like your flight's delayed, your flight, like it's just like it it just keeps going. It's like the
Mhm.
domino effect. The flight that was the plane that was coming for us, they gave to somebody else, so then we had to wait for another plane. And then by the time it actually gets there, all flights had been grounded because of weather. And so then we know our plane's there, but then you have to worry about like your flight crew timing out. So it's just like a sequence of events. And I'm literally sitting in Denver airport just meditating my ass off so that
Mhm.
I don't blow a gasket, because it's no one's fault. You can't like go scream at someone, but it doesn't help the fact that you've been sitting in an airport for 8 hours with two kids. You're just done. You're tired. You're over it. You don't know if you're going to get home, if you should go get a hotel room. Like, you want to cry because you
Yeah.
just want to get home to your own bed. Even knowing that it was going to be 80 degrees in my house when I got home, I just wanted to get to my house. And so, yeah, again, just like, I was like, it's okay to be frustrated. It's not okay to
Mhm.
like scream at these poor gate agents and treat them poorly because you're frustrated. Would you sit there? I mean, I observed several people doing that. People were
Yeah.
yelling at each other on our flight, like as we're sitting down. They're like, "Sit down! Our flight crew is going to time out." I mean, it's like so. It's like a pressure cooker when you're in those situations.
It
Everybody
is.
wants the same thing, but everyone's handling it so differently. And so,
Mhm.
just again, like giving yourself permission to feel that, but also falling back on your tricks to help get you through those feelings, because that's ultimately, I think, what we're trying to model for our kids is
Yeah.
feel the way you feel, and then here's some ways to deal with it.
Yes, yes.
But it's what I'm striving for most days.
Right. And it is tough. And I think, again, we just have to not have the expectation of perfectionism within ourselves or within others, but patience and reverence and just, kind of allowing things to just be as they are in the moment that they are, knowing that that moment too shall pass within a given point of time. So it's yucks though. Talk about the yucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yucks.
it has added such a positive, like when I think about what my meditation practice has added to my life, it
Mm-hmm.
is exponentially better than maybe anything that I even better than like, having like a daily movement practice
Mm-hmm.
or I tend to use it very spiritually. My husband would agree that he often catches me at the end of a meditation in prayer, because you're kind of like so self-aware in that moment, and really great, feeling very a lot of gratitude for all the things that you have in your life. You're sort of just really focused on those things, and so I tend to use it very spiritually, and end a lot of my meditations in prayer. And so for me, I also feel like it has sort of strengthened that
Mm-hmm.
piece of myself as well. Would you agree that you do that just with like your mindfulness? Does it tend to turn into like a spiritual session for you, or is it just simply grounding for the most part?
I think that my mindfulness practice is much more of like a grounding kind of practice. But and maybe this is just part of my training that I experienced in yoga, was that my primary teacher always ended every single session or time period with a prayer. And she had a beautiful way of just setting up the practice to have an intention with it, and then to allow your breath to guide the movement. Like, that was the most
Mm-hmm.
important component. It wasn't getting in all of those crazy binds or difficult asanas or anything else. It really helped. For me, what that has taught me is that breath guides the movement. And so with every movement, I'm very acutely aware of what my body is doing. But then in this certain kind of yoga that I was really heavily trained in, it was Ashtanga yoga. So you will spend a certain amount of seconds within these different asanas or positions. And it taught me that even though you can feel discomfort, that doesn't transcend to pain, but you need to know where that edge is. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to allow yourself to kind of like expand and fill up whatever space that is, you just need to breathe into it. And by doing so, you're able to not only get like deeper in the position, which allows you to just to sink into it more, and that causes its own release even within the body. But for me, that was also almost like a spiritual or like a cathartic kind of release. Whenever I'm able to sit and stretch, especially whenever I'm stressed out,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I use that kind of tool for, because I know that if I am tight in my mind, my thoughts, and my emotions, then it's going to be really hard to talk me off of that ledge, even rationally, even as a psychologist. That shit just doesn't work for me. And honestly, it doesn't work for most people. And so, what does work then is that I have to cue into my body in order for me to loosen my mind and my emotions. And the way that I do that is through like really stretching. Like you will find me just randomly at times standing on one foot or um, bending over or arching my back in a certain way. And in doing so, it is with great intention to kind of help to get to that place of release that might be needed in that moment. And so that's where I think the breath, the movement, the spiritual base comes from yoga, but the mindfulness is just a way to be present. And so whenever I was saying earlier that like our kids do it, like if your kid has a favorite flavor of ice cream, which I'm pretty sure that they all do, it's because they had an experience with that taste, with maybe that sensation, even with the environment that was going or things that were happening in the environment around them that just made that so special. Like every single person listening to this podcast right now, if I asked you, what is your favorite food? And you would say it. And then I would say, okay, well, can you tell me more about that? Like, can you describe it for me? The fact that you can describe your favorite food is a mindfulness activity. The fact that you
Mm-hmm.
smell your shampoo, your laundry detergent, that you get certain spices out of your spice rack, it's all because you have a mindful moment with that thing that then allows you to use it within your life. And if we all just kind of like recognize that as those things are happening, it can really help to just bring us down in those points in which we need it. I mean, it's aromatherapy for a reason. It's because it has that type of mindful effect on us. Lighting a candle, sitting by water, watching leaves fall from a tree. All of these different things are part of that mindfulness awareness practice that if we bring ourselves attention to it, it can just kind of allow us to be. So,
Oh, yeah. Don't you see that being, I see it, the similarities between
mhm,
mindfulness and meditation, but I do see them as being different in
mhm,
that, those are like grounding techniques so much, whereas meditation is more looking like inward as far
mhm,
as like, kind of like I think of it as like doing the work on your inside. We can work on our outside appearance all day. That meditation piece really helps me work on what's going on inside my body, my mind. And
mhm,
so I just wonder if you would give something like Kundalini meditation a
mm,
try,
mhm.
something that is still very physical because it's a lot of breath work. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard. Like you have to focus really hard, which is something that's difficult for you and I.
Mhm,
But it can release so much like stress and anxiety. Like there are very specific ones that I do if I'm feeling anxious or if I am, irritable. Or sometimes, there are certain meditations on the Melissa Wood app that's
mhm,
for bedtime. Like if you're trying to decompress, I know you don't really struggle with that. I don't either.
mm,
Sometimes, like if I haven't meditated that day, I don't want to miss a day. And so I'll do a bedtime meditation,
mhm,
just sort of like drop in that zone quicker than I would. I mean, we're I think, very lucky in that we don't have issues with going to sleep, but some people really struggle with that. I know my
yeah,
husband will use meditation sometimes to fall asleep.
mhm,
And he doesn't really practice like a meditation practice daily, but he will, if he is really struggling to fall asleep, he'll do like a melatonin gummy and then like put a meditation on that seems to help him.
Mm,
So
mhm.
I just wonder what it would be like if you
Mhm.
tried it, just because I know it's hard for you,
Right.
but you have all this extra time now that you're not
I do.
working
I do.
to stretch yourself and to challenge yourself a little bit. And so
Mm-mm. Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for sure. I remember doing that
I
as part of our training for it. So yeah, it's been a while, but
I
yeah.
would be curious if you tried it for, let's say, like 2 weeks, like what you would say after, if it like brought no benefit to you, or if you saw the difference between like mindfulness and meditation. I don't know. I would just be curious
Oh,
to
cool.
hear your take on it.
I hear she's issuing me a challenge. Did you guys hear that?
I love a challenge. You got to
I
keep
love
it.
it.
I love a challenge. I'm trying to think of a
Yeah.
challenge for myself right now because I feel like I need something to sort of focus on to get me back in the swing of things. I'm just not feeling it. And for whatever reason, you would think I would be coming back with like all of this, um, I don't know, what's the word, like not even energy, but just like feeling super motivated to like get
Mm,
back in the swing of things. And I'm just really not. I don't know what I'm in the mood for, but I think I'm in the mood to get my AC fixed. I'm going to harp on that because there ain't nothing
yeah.
like living in the South without a functioning AC.
No, thank you. Yeah.
It's a hot mess. So, anyway,
I
just
will
to get back,
accept the challenge. I will
I
accept
would
the challenge.
love to hear
All
what you would
right.
have to say after giving it a try.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 7-day free trial on the app. You can, of course, use that, but there's so many apps out
Oh
there.
yeah.
Like I tend to pump Melissa Wood because I'm a big believer in her community, but and I like the creators. I was very resistant when she brought new creators on the app. I was like, I don't know, I just do hers. And once I started to dabble in the different content creators, I really like the differences that because every day's different. Some days you're not in the mood to just
Mm-hmm.
that. Like some days I need a little bit more like love, body love, like self
Mm-hmm.
acceptance. And so there's a specific one for that. Like I just like being able to scroll through and sort of pick, okay, what do I feel like I need today? And have that variety to choose from. But I know there's like Joe Dispenza. I know a lot of people love
Mm-hmm.
that meditation app. Even like our watch, if you have a smartwatch, mine constantly is reminding me to take some time to meditate, self-reflect.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll do that just to track to make sure that I'm doing it every day. But there's just so much. Google free
Mm-hmm.
meditation. Start with
Mm-hmm.
just a short one. Don't go for a 30-minute meditation off the get
No.
rip.
No.
Start small and sort of grow that. And then start to notice. That's what I guess that's my challenge for you is start to notice the days you don't do it versus the days you do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that is really what spurred this thing a year ago when I was like, I'm going to give myself a year of doing this every day and making it a practice. I was so sporadic, but I started to notice how different my attitude was on the days I did it versus the days I didn't. And attitude, I don't even know if that's the right word, but like how reactive I was.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a little bit of a hothead sometimes and um or just not manage emotions well. And it's just changed the game for me completely
Mm-hmm.
with making it a daily practice. I tend to be much more subdued and just non-reactive to everything. Kids, anything negative that happens. It might still irritate me, but I'm not like pissed and I'm not pissed for like 6 hours. I'm not, I just can handle
Yeah.
the emotions a little bit better. So, yeah, I'm going to throw
I
down a challenge
know.
for you.
I'll accept the challenge, and I hope our listeners will also like pick up on some of this and maybe even share like what your meditation practice is, or something you found helpful, or a resource or something you use, so we can make this part of like a collective kind of
Like, let's do this
experience.
together. I
Yeah.
would love to hear what other people do as a practice. I mean, I tend to be in a little bit of a vortex because I do follow Melissa Wood. I'm part of that community and I use that app. And
Hmm.
most people that I talk to about meditation, my age or our age, they don't have a daily practice. A lot of like my mom's friends, or like if I talk to my friends' parents, they'll, say, well, I meditate every day. I'm trying to get so
Hmm.
to do it. And so it tends to be, I think, more like the 60-year-old crowd. I don't know. I'm curious. Maybe we'll put a poll out on our
Yeah.
social media. Just I would be curious who has like a daily meditation practice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, why not? Is it just something that like it's just not your thing? Like you just, or you've been maybe like nervous to try it, not nervous, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a little bit scary to think about trying to implement some one more thing into our daily routine
Sure.
because knows we have enough going on, but
Mm-hmm.
just be curious to hear. I feel like it has added so much to my life. I would love to hear other people doing it or why they're not. Give
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. So we will definitely put that out there on social media and have some questions and things because that just it is. It's one of those things that, especially if you find it so beneficial, it's like, well, okay, then if I find that this is so helpful to me, then why aren't we all doing this? Like, what's going on? Or if we are, then what else are you finding that is a supplemental on top of that? Like, how have you deepened that aspect of your practice? So,
Right. How do you keep
mm-hmm,
developing that practice? I know one thing that I love about the fact that I do it every morning and my family like knows, my kids know, my husband know. And, I catch my daughter doing it, or she'll say, Mommy, take a deep breath. Like if I get a little road rage,
mm-hmm,
she'll be like, Mom, take a deep breath, or I'll catch her in there doing her little meditation post. She was kind of coaching my mom through a meditation this weekend at the lake, which is super cute. But we're setting that example for them of, again,
mm-hmm,
how to deal with big feelings. And I think that that's so vital that we are not just telling our kids what to do, but showing them, actually
yeah,
showing them how we deal with big emotions.
mm-hmm,
And that's just huge because I don't remember, my parents weren't meditating. When
mm-hmm.
I was walking on the beach a couple weeks ago down in Hilton Head, there was a guy our age, like sitting there just full out, like full meditation. And I just want to be like, yes, you go do
That's right.
but
Yeah.
like just being public about it, not being afraid or
Mm-hmm.
looking like the weirdo in the corner, like who cares? Like do you and
Yeah.
do what makes you feel good. It is one of those things that makes me literally feel good from the inside. um so yeah, I love that. And I love you said this the last two times we tried to record
Mm-hmm.
this, but give the example that you gave to kids when you went
Oh, yeah.
into Rachel's classroom.
Hmm. So there's this lovely book on and no, I talk like I don't do a meditation practice, but I think that again, I don't sit necessarily just still. I may do a little bit more in nature, but not, I don't, not within the confines of a house, I guess. But I did at the airport because I've been in several airports. I'll go do a yoga practice in the middle of an airport. That is not above me to just go walk off and find a corner and then do like a 10-minute routine. Um, that was fun. But there's this book called Moody Cow, and it is a lovely book on meditation and how useful it can be. So, I took it into like we have these surprise readers at her elementary school. And so I came in there one day as a surprise reader. And the book essentially talks about this little cow who has a really rough day, kind of like all the circumstances that we're talking about happening within this little cow's life and how upset he's getting the entire day. Like it's one thing after another. He's getting more and more pissed off. He's blaming like his mood or his emotions or his reactions on other things. He's not like what you're saying, doing the inner work and kind of being reflective on it. He's just he's on that 6 to 8 hour spree that I was on. So the mom calls apparently because she's had enough or just isn't, maybe in this case, maybe this is what it is, doesn't have the necessary tools or guidance to kind of help even her child to kind of like come down from this space and calls on Grandpa Cow, who's probably like an image like I think of my dad probably doing this because he is an active meditator and has been his entire life. And even throughout my entire life, I've watched him do it. But the cow gets sent to Grandpa, and Grandpa has this empty water, like a bottle of water. All of us have bottles of water or can have something clear. And he took some glitter and said that the glitter represents all of the emotions or all of the hot thoughts that we have within our day. And whenever you shake it up, it gets really spicy in there, right? It turns into its own cyclone. It becomes very um, movement filled. And if you allow it just to kind of sit and settle, and watch it in that process, it allows you to also sit and settle. And so the emotions, the thoughts, and the feelings may still be within inside of that bottle, but they do not have to be clouding it. And the example I like even better than glitter is like mud, because I think that it really illustrates this beautifully. I mean, you can, and everybody has mud. It's not like you can, we don't keep glitter in our house. My husband's anti glitter. We have a little girl and I'm a pageant chick. It's anti glitter house though. Makes too much of a mess. We're not dealing with it. So mud is what we would use. We got plenty of that in West Virginia. Put it in a water bottle, shake it up. It's going to be muddy water. And again,
Mhm.
that represents our emotions, our thoughts, everything that is clouding our judgment, maybe in that moment. And
Mhm.
so you can't see clearly through muddy water. But if you just put that down and let it be, then all of the dirt will still be there, but it will settle to the bottom. And then you can see clearly, even with those emotions and thoughts still being present. And that's really the goal. So, yesterday, whenever I was fuming for a good 6 plus 8 hours, it was that, shaking the bottle. At times it would kind of go down a little bit, but then you can always pick that bottle up and start shaking it again, right?
Yeah.
And at different points, again, in all being human, that happens, you know? And so now, today, a day later, are those same thoughts, emotions, and everything still in the bottle? Yes, they are, because that's life. That's our experiences. That's
Sure.
history, that's part of it, but they're at the bottom. Now, I could absolutely pick that damn thing up and start shaking the hell out of it and go right back to that spot. But I also know that at this point, that's now a choice. I've
Right.
allowed that kind of thing and that process to happen. And so if I go back and revisit that, that's going to be on me,
Yeah.
had that time with it. But that's a good tool that you can then teach your kids. And so while we were doing it in the classroom, all the kids were like, oh, wow, that's magic. That's so fun. That's so cool. But then again, that's something that we can use with them. And so she can have a little water
Yeah.
bottle in her room. And what we do, if she starts to have, a moment or something, then we give her time to kind of process and allow those feelings to be out. Like, we're just like, you can go outside, you can go in your room, you can go wherever it is that you need to go. And I want you to tell me where that's going to be, just from a safety kind of perspective, right? Like, we're not going to walk off and, go for a nice little jolt or anything. Um, but I'll come back and check on you every now and then, but just don't come back in until you're at a better space and place with things. And then we can reapproach it. And so that's what we try to teach, within those kind of confines. But that book is really, really, really helpful in all of that.
I love that. The Moody Cow. I
Mm-hmm.
finished Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back.
Mm.
I got one out from the library. It took me twice of checking it out because I really was pretty thorough. She gives like some assignments through it, but lots of guided meditations dropped in there, lots of just really starting to look at how the universe is. There's a timetable and it may not be yours,
Mm-hmm.
God, universe, whatever. It's, you're kind of on that timetable. And sometimes we want things before it's our time,
Mm-hmm.
or just again, it talks a lot about like the presence that you bring to a room or the energy that you bring to a room and how you're responsible for that. You're not responsible for how people receive your energy, but you are responsible for what you bring to it. And so I found that book super helpful in thinking about, again, just like who who I want to be, who I want to show up as every day, what I bring to the room, what's my responsibility. Because I think that's part of doing the work is really seeing, you know, your place in things, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I have to return it back to the library today, but it's one if you haven't had a chance to read also, and you're in this sort of self discovery, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call self help because I don't really feel like that's it either. It's just more of like really tapping into your intuition and what
Mm-hmm.
makes you happy, and then creating your life around these practices. And that's what meditation has become so sacred to me for that reason, because it's part of what makes me truly happy each day,
Mm-hmm.
to tap in and really listen to myself and and what's serving me and what's not serving me. It's been a beautiful year. I'm so excited
Oh,
to level up tomorrow to level 41. I feel like it's my year.
absolutely. And how cool to be talking about this and then for the day to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
The timing was right. The timing's always right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to sit on that same dock a year later and just reflect on what a
Mm,
magical year 40 has been for me. And just, I'm excited for what's to come. I feel like 41 is exciting. One of my friends was like, "Oh, now you're like in your 40s." Like it's one thing to say you're 40, but like now you're just like
oh,
you're in your
yeah.
40s. And I'm like, "No." Like we now just solely speak to it in the context of like leveling up. Like I'm going to level 41, you're
Hmm.
moving. But
I love
also,
that.
number 41 is my favorite Dave Matthews song. So I
Oh,
just feel like there's some spiritual connection there for me, and I am excited to see what this year brings.
heck yeah, me too. Here we go, right? Starting
A lot more
tomorrow.
meditation, that's for sure. I'm going to keep it going, set the tone
Amen.
for each day.
Ah, I hear
So,
you. I hear you.
so yeah, check it out. If you haven't given it a go, give it a go.
Hmm.
Google guided meditation. I think guided is the way to start personally. I'm just not a person that can just sit and try to like focus on my breath by myself. Like I need someone to sort of guide me through
Hmm.
that process.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you're trying something, you could always try the Melissa Wood Health app, free
Hmm.
7 days. Lots of like workouts and meditations on there. But like I said, just a vast amount of creators and different types, different links, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, any amount of time that you want to do.
Right.
Today I did a walking meditation and then I found a turtle halfway through. So
That's awesome.
I had to stop because, of course, I had to bring the turtle home for my kids to, play with for the
Yeah.
day so I could give them something to do. But yeah, so then I had to finish that. And then I did
Hmm.
another one. And then I did another one right before we recorded this. So, but yeah, there's so much to choose from. And I can't wait to hear Sarah's take after
I know.
her challenge of 2 weeks.
2 weeks of Kundalini, right? That's what you
I
said.
think Kundalini would be your
Yeah.
jam. I really do. I could totally see you getting into that. A lot of chanting, a lot of
Hmm.
breath work. Because you're right, you don't sit still well,
Mm-mm.
which that's not an issue for me. But um, I think it would help you because you do have to still focus on things like your breath
Hmm.
and chanting and movement and those types of things. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll
I
definitely give her a
invite you to
go.
give it a go.
I know. And we look forward to hearing what everybody else uses too as part of your practice, or if you're interested in practicing, or what's the block, I guess, huh? And we're
Yeah.
receptive
Don't
to
let it
all.
Yeah, don't let it intimidate you. That was the word I was trying to think of. I think people are intimidated by the word
Mhm.
meditation or like the practice of it. But it's like anything. Like you do something a few times and you're like, oh wow. Oh, okay. This is what
Mhm.
everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
totally changes the game. Now I get my crystals all laid out. Like, I guess I still have some ritual to it, but again, it's ever changing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just as we are, huh?
Woo. Woo
Woo.
is me.
Woo is me. That's awesome. Well, guys, we hope you have benefited from this, that we've hopefully broken down maybe just even some of the judgments or some of the stereotypes that got about both practices. And, we've been real about it for our norm, right?
Yeah, it's not perfect by any means.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
sometimes you don't even feel the immediate shift. Like sometimes I finish and it's like, I might still be irritated or anything, but then you might notice it like 2 hours later or 12 hours later. It's not even like sometimes it's immediate. Like today, I felt like it was pretty immediate. Um, it didn't last long enough, so I was going back for more. Probably could have used like a nice like 20-minute meditation to start my day, and I didn't do it right off the get rip. But but yeah, just trying to start somewhere. Just start.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything. You just gotta start, whether you know what you're doing or not. Give it a go, and then go over to our Facebook page, the LYLAS Podcast, or hit us up on Instagram at the LYLAS Podcast and let us know what your practice is or how it's going or if you're trying it. I would love to just hear any feedback from any of our
Mhm.
listeners on their meditation practices or
Yes.
lack thereof.
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. Be sure to stay connected to us and listen in every Monday because new episodes are out. Season 2, you guys, if you have not picked up on it, it's a good thing we had a meditation and mindfulness episode, I think, because we have been heavy. We've been
Yeah,
heavy, and it's been with great reason and purpose, and the feedback we've gotten on it has been really supportive. But please, don't just feel like you have to start here and move forward with us. Go back and pick up some of those other episodes that we have out there because we've really been hitting on all things for all people here.
that's right. All
So,
right. Well, until next week, guys, Lilas.
out. See ya.